Welcome to this episode of the Million Dollar Mastermind. I'm Larry Weidel, and before we get started, if you want to know exactly how to win again and again, go to weidelonwinning.com/webinar now to watch something I've put together for you. Now let's get going into this episode of Million Dollar Mastermind. I'm here this afternoon with David Karandish from St. Louis, Missouri, and former CEO of Answers.com, a company that sold for over $900 million. Then he became a founder and CEO of a company he calls Capacity. And it's a new kind of help desk powered by artificial intelligence, automate support for your customers and your employees. They had 6.4 million in annual revenue in 2021, or I guess already for 2021. Named America's Best Startup Employers by Forbes in 2020. And he's member of something I've never heard of, the Forbes Technology Council. And then he's been a board member of two other things I haven't heard about, which is Equity and Varsity Tutors. So I'm going to get an education today, which always makes me feel happy. So David, thanks for taking the time, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I like your track record. I like being able to talk to people who can put accomplishments on the wall and have things they can, without bragging, but things they can point to let people know they're not just one of those people who talks a good game. They actually have the capacity to work, figure things out, and make those things happen. So congratulations on your achievement. Talk about, how did you get to be a CEO of a company that sells for $900 million?
So I've been doing entrepreneurial stuff since I was in high school, and even before then, I can remember as a kid. Uh, I can remember being in Cub Scouts and not being great at tying knots or getting all the pledge badges, but I could remember I was always great at selling. I loved to be able to sell. I led the candy drives at the time, and so there was something there. There was a spark there, even very very early on. Uh, One of the unique, I think people are very much products of their environment, and I happened to grow up and kind of come of age in the late '90s. I graduated from high school in 2001, and so I was growing up as the internet was taking shape, and so I started learning how to code, building web pages for people, and then by the time I graduated college, I had done 6 different startups, all of which failed in a conventional sense, but I learned from all 6 of them something that I'm using today. In my first startup, we started doing web design and used a lot of the time and the techniques and the just the hustle to go build my first business. We still use that today. Had a lead gen business doing mortgage lead generation. Almost half of our customers are in the mortgage space today. And so I can meet with those folks and talk with them with some industry background, having learned that again as a junior in college. I had a website doing bot plugins for AOL's Instant Messenger at that time. That was before Facebook or any social media was really big. And so we used a lot of the same concepts and ideas for my existing AI powered support today. And so, and then most recently, my last company was called Answers.com. We grew it from 0 to a couple hundred million in revenue, had a nice exit. And so I really view both the successes and failures to date as helping to shape how I've gotten to where I'm at today.
Hey, let me ask you this. Several questions. So to clarify, you weren't just CEO, you were a founder as well of Answers.
Yeah. So, success has many fathers. And so I was one of the founders. And I'll give you my caveat on that. I just graduated college in 2005. And my buddy and I had this idea of starting a comparison shopping website. So I bought a one-way ticket, flew out to California, crashed at my aunt's house for, again, a one-way ticket. I didn't know when I was going to come back. And we ended up cutting partnership deals with the major comparison shopping engines, shopping.com and Yahoo Shopping, that sort of thing. So we got our little business off the ground. Took every penny I had, put it in. My business partner did the same thing, and we found an outside investor to help us kind of get the company, get the car out of the garage, if you will. So the company was profitable and growing, and we recognized we needed to add content to our websites, because at that time now we had websites in health and travel and finance and a lot of different categories beyond shopping. And so we built a Q&A platform that we applied to our individual sites. And then we started to really fall in love with this idea of helping to answer people's questions. And so we went out, we found a website called answers.com that was a public company at that time. We raised the capital to go buy it, merged it with our comparison shopping question and answer company that we started. And then we rebranded the whole thing under the answers.com name. And so I didn't start the branch of answers.com, but I started the parent company that ended up growing.
Yeah. And in the end game, it's amounts to the same thing for what the company turned into. Talk about why you gravitated. I try and think back to my early motivations of what was going through my mind, caused me to do the things I did. What was it about sales that you just gravitated to more than, winning all the little badges and everything with the Boy Scouts and those things? What was it that turned you on about that part?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that people get tripped up on is that you've got people who could sell anything to anyone, and I'm not one of those people. I want to be very clear. I can't sell shoes to a snake or ice cubes to an Eskimo, sort of thing. But if I believe in something, I can, like, I'm 2 feet in. I can sell it because I'm believable, because I believe it. I actually had one of our first customers. He said, David, when you came in, you were 22. We hadn't worked with anyone of your age. We hadn't, I guess we didn't have a business yet, but we did this partnership because we believed in you, because of how much you believed in your ability to make this succeed. And so I think even from an early age, like I said, I'm not somebody who could just sell anything to anyone, but if I believe something, then I'm 2 feet in.
So you believed in cookies or whatever it was you were selling as a kid?
It was actually Reese's peanut butter cups, which is one of my favorite snacks. Yes.
So you got turned on by taking Reese's peanut butter cups to the masses.
Well, and also I believe that we could actually really help our Cub Scout troop with it. So it's not just
now we're talking
product, but
yeah,
also
now we're talking about
also what the product stands for.
Yeah. And so what was the kind of thing, what caused you to believe that strongly about doing something big for your troop? Rather than, you were thinking team rather than individual right from the beginning. And what do you think triggered that? Hey, listen, there's a lot of information online, but there aren't a lot of people who've actually done something. In my case, I've actually built a successful business that's accrued over $5 billion in assets under management and has done well even during trying times. Now, if you want to know exactly how I've done this, go to whiteelmwinning.com/webinar now. I've compressed a decade of learning into 5 short weeks just for those of you who want to give yourself an incredible advantage and are tired of waiting and watching others move up.
I think one of the things I realized early on was that I, I really enjoy seeing the value creation process happen. I enjoy seeing uh, two sides come together and end up with a transaction that they like. And at the same time, uh, I really when I say I wasn't good at tying knots, I think I learned to tie my shoes in the second grade. Like I was really not. I'm not handy. I'm not. My dad was born in Iran, so I didn't have a lot of Americana in the early Cub Scout days. And so, yeah, I loved the idea that I could just help my friends, help the troop out. And I think in the same way today, when I think about what we're doing at capacity, there are a million different ways for someone to go earn a living, go make money, etc. I've had great financial success to date, but the reason why I'm still doing what I'm doing is because I truly believe that we can help companies do their best work. We can help teams do their best work by using our platform. And so it's that buy-in to the why that I just think is so important. People like to make fun of millennials because millennials are meaning makers and they want meaning out of what they do. And there's some cliches in that, but I think there's some real truth in if people understand the why behind what they do, they can go in and do it with full gusto.
Well, did learning coding and writing software, uh, they say studying mathematics or learning a musical instrument, things like that, are big helps in terms of getting you organized mentally to solve problems and to deal with life and be independent. Uh, did uh, uh, learning how to code, write software, what kind of things did that give you? Uh, what was the takeaway for you from that, other than the particular skill?
Yeah, great question. I think one of the most undervalued skills that a person can develop. Everyone talks about problem solving, but not a lot of people talk about problem selecting. And so, to me, coding was an opportunity not only to learn how to solve problems and to build things. And I think it's a fantastic route for both of those. But there are other places where you can solve problems and build things. Other ways you can do that. I think what coding did for me is it kind of honed this ability to select problems. Okay, what kind of website do you want to build? What kind of software do you want to build? How do you want to go about it? And so I really believe that there's an opportunity to both it really use both sides of the brain, both the creative and the logical side in coding. And it's a nice way to kind of hone those problem selecting skills early when the stakes are low, and that you can then bring that into bigger stakes along the way.
Yeah, that's such a big thing. It sounds like, oh yeah, I'll make sure I do that. But it's like goal setting and time management, how everything kind of ties together. It's like you can be incredibly organized with your time, but if you have a wrong goal, in other words, you got the wrong target, something you're not excited, you're not really that excited about, something that's really not going to make that much of a difference, something you're doing just because somebody else was excited about it, you got caught up in the frenzy. It doesn't really matter how great you are in your time management, how disciplined you are and organized and everything, is because when you get to the finish line, it's going to be like, big deal.
It's funny you mentioned that because you hear a lot of people talk about planning and organizing as if they go together all the time, and I actually find they're very very different skill sets. Uh, my wife and I joke around about this. She loves to organize, so you give her a Saturday afternoon, one glass of wine, and a closet. she can organize that closet all day long and be in her happy place, and it'll be fantastic. But if I went to my wife and I said, Erin, let's plan a vacation anywhere in the world, the infinite possibilities are endless. And so there's a different skill set, I think, that you need when you're organizing a set of things that are in front of you that you can see, you can touch, you can feel, you can kind of put in the boxes. Versus if you're planning or you have seemingly limitless opportunities, seemingly multiple options. Those are, to me, those are very, very different skills that people tend to conflate. My wife's a much better organizer than I am. But in this sense of how I'm using the phrasing, I'm a much better planner, which is why we go together really well. But I think learning to plan, whether it's goal setting, whether it's problem selecting, that's something that's so important that I think gets missed in the general public when they kind of group planning and organizing together.
Yeah, it has to do with long-term, short-term, the vision and then the execution of the plan, it does require different people. In fact, that's why in many cases, the founders wind up getting thrown out because after a certain point, the size of the company, the founders become more of a detriment than an advantage, because now it's the execution stage and the compounding stage, and the founder is more of a visionary.
Well, I found in general, people in startups are like wines. Some of them are good right when you open up. Some of them have a couple year shelf life. Some of them will continue to get better with age. And that's okay. I think what is important is that people recognize. I have a buddy of mine I worked with in 3 different companies, and he is great for years, kind of 1 through 3, 1 through 4. And then after that, he kind of hits his limit, and then he wants to go on to do something even earlier stage. And that's okay. But I think a lot of people get tripped up into thinking they're early stage people when they're not, or they are early stage, but they're not the scalers for that.
Well, it is, you make a great point there. It is important for you to think about what kind of person you are and to put yourself in positions where you can be your best. If you're not a visionary, you're not an idea person, don't be frustrated, because most of the work in making something happen is going to be after the idea is conceived. And the people that can stay on track and figure things out step by step are insanely valuable. And so don't be frustrated if you're this way or that way. The main thing is know how you are and put yourself in a position where you can stay inspired because you're doing the things that you enjoy, or the part of the job that you enjoy, that you're going to get the most satisfaction from, and you won't get frustrated envying somebody else because you're doing what you want to do. And it's important for us to be clear on that, so you don't let yourself get tricked into envying other people. For example, let me give an example, David.
Sure.
This happens all the time. I'm so stupid. I've got one guy in my life, Mike Tuttle out of Dallas, a longtime friend. He always seems to be doing fun things, cool things. And usually, and I'll hear about it, and it's like, well, why can't I do? Why am I doing it? Why am I busting my rear doing this, that, and the other? I can't just drop everything and go for a week here. I mean, just this year, he's had like 75 vacations. He's been to Mexico, hunting and fishing and vacationing and every Cabo there is, and it's just insane with this guy. There's not that many weeks in a month. to do all the stuff he does. And now he calls me for just to torment me. He sent me a thing saying, hey, I got to go. My wife and I were going to go up to a wedding in Mars Hill, North Carolina. So we figured, hey, we're in North Carolina. They live in Dallas. They said, hey, we're in North Carolina. We'll just stay for a week. You know that he said, what do you think of the best resorts in North Carolina? Because I used to live up there.
Yeah.
And I'm immediately thinking, what the heck is going on? How can this guy just decide I'll take an extra week, go here? Now, the truth of it is I could do the same thing, but for a minute there, I was bamboozled. It's like, man, I just wish I could take off and go out. But, I lived in North Carolina for 28 years. I kind of been there, done that. And I found if I go to a resort for a week, I get bored out of my mind,
I've got a 3-day shelf life at the beach. After 3 days, I'm all conked out.
I go stir crazy, and it's like you see these people on the sidewalk cafe and they're sitting there. They got a couple of drinks and they're in the breeze and they're relaxed clothes. You say, wow, that looks so good. And then when you're in that position, it's like, I'm sitting here eating something and drinking something. This just doesn't seem to be that special. But it's so, I think we've got to be aware of the tendency to look at other people. Wow, they've got a company. Wow, they've got all these ideas. Wow, they've got these things. And if you think about it, there's a good chance it's not even something you really want.
Right. You're absolutely right.
And this has been so much fun. If you enjoyed what you've heard and are dead serious about finding out for yourself exactly how this works in the real world, I've taken the most valuable business lessons I've learned over 40 years and put them into something for you to watch. Go to whiteelementwinning.com/webinar now in order to move up as fast as possible. I'm Larry Weidel, and I run the $1 Million Mastermind. Go, go, go.